Half-Life, the franchise that changed the FPS genre forever, is unfortunately, as it sounds, was completely abandoned by the people who created it. I am, of course, talking about Valve. In this video, I'll go over the things we should not expect, why or shouldn't expect them, and what is the future of Half-Life. Here we go. The last entry that was the midpoint of the trilogy called Half-Life 2 Episode 2 was released over 11 years ago, and even after so much time, we, the players, although some work has been done in the past, are not even close to the promised conclusion. To start it off, we got the first red flag when Episode 2's ending had no teaser for the next game. That is something that Episode 1 did, and even if some of the sections were changed or removed, like that one cliffhanger, we had a pretty good idea of how things should move from there. Those changes had some effect on Valve at the time. In one of the interviews, Gabe Newell said that things changed during development, and Valve doesn't want people to be disappointed over the content not present in the final game. With each interview, Gabe slowly moved away from talking about the current state of Episode 3, answering all following questions with the same comment.
I have nothing to say about Episode 3 at this moment.
Of course, there were some exceptions, a famous Ricochet 2 interview being one of them. Sadly, that is pretty much all we managed to get from the man himself in the past decade. What about other employees? Aside from a couple of hints dropped by employees, there was no major updates on the situation until the day when the man who wrote the Half-Life universe as we know it published the fanfic that served as a final nail in the coffin for the Half-Life franchise. You know, Half-Life was developed by a set of incredibly talented people. Kelly Bailey, Mark Laidlaw, Victor Bentonoff. What do those people have in common? All of them have worked on Half-Life games. Those three that I've mentioned had a significant impact on games development and therefore responsible for its success. And guess what? None of those people work at the Valve in the current day. The only person who still works there since the day one is Gabe Newell. Remember that fake email that I've got another date asking us not to die in the 5 years or so? Fake or not, some people didn't live long enough to work with you again. Gabe, Rob Ederton, Jim French, and Rob Ederton passed away not too long ago. We will remember them and their work, wishing there was one more time we could hear them again. But there won't be. Valve has changed. Although they always hired skilled game developers, I doubt they will hire another Mark Laidlaw. A game made without those people would still be good, even great. Problem is, Half-Life 2 was excellent, and new hires will have to work hard to even get close to the level that was set by HL2 and episodes, let alone surpass it. And why both are Valve is dominating the free-to-play multiplayer-only market with games like TF2, Dota 2, and CSGO. Those games make money. In fact, Gabe once said they would only make a classic single-player experience only if employees at Valve would be interested in making one, and a game that only sells itself once just makes a lot of money, but doesn't make all the money in the world is not something Valve is interested in right now. But Half-Life 3, if released, was going to be an exception. Want to know why? Memes. Half-Life 3 has become the meme, even for people who have never played a single game in the franchise. It's the only game that you can put a Valve name on and expect enormous sales, unlike some of the games they have made recently. Artifact has shown how disconnected Valve is from community. It was their first game after a few years of silence, and to say fans were disappointed was to say absolutely nothing. Multiple chubs at Half-Life in the shape of the Easter eggs didn't help the situation. Rest in peace, HO. 1/4 dead. That's just a few of those Easter eggs, making fun of Half-Life. And to top it all off, during the 20 years anniversary of Half-Life, the only thing that Valve talked about was the launch of Artifacts beta. And that's really depressing. Some may say that Half-Life 3 will eventually be made. The technology simply isn't there at the moment, and to some extent, they will be right. For quite some time, Valve was investing time and money in VR hardware, and have already made the Vive and Index headsets. There is a pretty high chance of an actual Half-Life experience being worked on exclusively for VR. If that's true, it might just become a headset seller that Valve needs so much. However, that creates a bigger problem. Imagine that the only way to experience something resembling a new Half-Life game would be to buy a headset, upgrade your PC, and have enough space in a room for it to work correctly. As opposed to just playing the game on Steam, this doesn't seem very appealing. We've been passionately waiting for this game for all those years. In fact, I still meet people believing in the imminent release of HL3, but as in any abusive relationship, you have to draw the line somewhere and leave. Waiting for something that will never happen is only going to ruin you and your life. And that's exactly what it did to me and a couple of other people. It's time to face it. Valve we once knew and loved is long gone, and it has no plans of coming back. They left behind the game that brought them fame and status of the PC gaming beacon. Let's remember them like that and move on. Because, and I'm happy to say, we've got places to be and things to do. Half-Life 3, that's what people been waiting for all those years, and now they wouldn't have to wait for too long. At the moment of writing this script, we got not just one, not just two, 4 games that are going for that same goal, but taking different paths to get there. Can you imagine how refreshing it is to finally see progress after years of being ignored by Valve? It feels great for the first time in 11 years, not just for the fans, but also for developers. By the way, I'm making a game of my own. I'm not gonna name it. This isn't a self-promotion video, but your guess will probably be right. Now, if I'm an idiot with practically no programming skills, can dedicate a few years of life just to make a free Half-Life game, Valve, what the fuck is your excuse? Anyways, it has been a good ride. I may dislike Valve for their inability to communicate, but even after a decade since the last episode, Half-Life is still very much alive, and we, the fans, will keep it that way, because even if they don't, we still care.